Good morning, Therese Allgeyer, formerly
You're saying my name right.
Sister Mary Geraldus. How did you get Geraldus?
From Mother Gerald.
That's what I thought.
I had two, we had 3 picks. I only put 2 down. Well, she added the 3rd one. And that's her name in Latin. And I didn't like it. I could hardly say it, much less spell it.
But you grew to like it.
Oh, it was okay. Every time she saw me, she'd grab me by the shoulder and shake me and say, "You're Geraldus, aren't you?"
See, she remembered you.
I go, "Yeah." If it was in the trunk room, wouldn't matter where it was. She was a piece of work, that girl.
Okay, so she thought you were too, so you got a special name.
That's right.
So how would you like to begin? This is your time. We thank you for coming to share your story with us.
Okay. Well, I'd like to talk about my life. I came into this planet on the 27th of July, which was a Wednesday, at 6:10 p.m. And the whole world celebrated with balloons.
Oh, really?
That's right. And I'm number 7 of 12 children. We had 6 boys and 6 girls. But my one brother, just older than I, died at 7 weeks old. They didn't know what was the cause of death, but anyway, I was down the road. I was disappointed because I thought he could have gotten me a lot of dates, you know, but that never happened. And
So number 7 of 12, that household must have been alive every minute of the day.
oh yeah, and every one of the older people in our family had charge of 1 or 2 of the younger ones. He had to make sure that they were clean, they got to school on time, they ate, they had clothes ready, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards.
So Mom was a good administrator, wasn't she?
Oh, she was
Talk
good
about
at
leadership.
everything she did. She was an English teacher, she was a math teacher, she was a psychologist, she was a seamstress, she loved to make hats, she designed her own hats.
Did she?
And she belonged to everything. And she'd come home and she'd say, "Well, Mrs. So-and-so wore da-da-da-da-da." And she said, "I wouldn't wear that to a dog fight." But anyway, my mother was very funny.
As you look back, Therese, on your life in that family, which was very large, what is something that perhaps you learned from that experience, that a value that you most treasured that you can still see is a value for you today?
Well, we had to share.
Okay.
We had to share everything. We had to share bikes, we had to share sleds, we had to share toboggans, we had to share everything we owned. And it wasn't too bad to do that.
And how has that served you to this day?
Well, having to share things is not difficult for me. And it hasn't been. And that's about what I can say about it.
So you went to school
Yeah,
in
I went-
Detroit. That's where you're from.
Right, went to Isaac Newton School.
West Side?
Yes.
West Side.
It was about 16 blocks from where we lived. My brother Bob drove me on his bike in kindergarten, and he would go through every puddle he could find.
Those brothers, aren't they something?
Yeah, he was something else. Anyway, for kindergarten first, and I'm not sure if it was second or not, but anyway, by the time we got to 3rd grade, St. Scholastica was built. And of course, we had to go there, and it was right across the street.
Perfect.
And one time, one of my brothers or sisters got scarlet fever, and we were all quarantined for like 16 days.
Wow.
Well, we couldn't stay in the house, all day long, as we weren't sick. And my parents owned 3 lots. The lot the house was on, and 2 lots next door. And there was a path between the 2nd and 3rd lot. And the kids going to St. Scholastica would go through our path. And they went to school and they told the nuns, they said, "Oh, the Allgeyers aren't sick. They're out playing baseball." Anyway, my mother, because I was really good at riding my bike, my mother frequently sent me to the grocery store with a long list. It was like 2 brown bags, But I could ride my bike no-handed, so that was kind of a good thing.
You're kidding.
No, it was on Grand River, and it was a long way. And she knew the price of every item, and she never gave me much more than what it was going to cost. She had it all figured out, and I'd have like 17 cents change or 29 cents, you know, something like that. Anyway, she was really tight with the money. She had to be, you can imagine. Anyway.
So you went to St. Scholasticus, and that's where you met the Adrian Dominicans?
Right. We used to go over and clean their house before they came back in August.
Did you really?
Yeah, I remember that. My dad, my dad was an electrician, and
Okay.
when anything it went wrong, they would call Joe, and he'd come over and fix it. And he just was a piece of work. He just laugh at those nuns because they were so, straight and so on and so forth.
We were blessed, though, as in our convent days, those early days, with the help of our neighbors, with the help of so many people, parents at our school, and what they did for us. I mean, if we had a car, we had one car with how many in the convent. So you're at St. Scholasticus. You went to grade school, some of grade school, and all of high school there?
No. Benedictine wasn't built at that time.
Okay.
But I went to Mercy High.
Oh, Catholic high school. So you had Mercy Sisters.
I did.
So you had Adrian's in your history and Mercy Sisters in your history. So what about, you're an Adrian Dominican now.
Of course.
So how did you?
100%.
100%. So what was it was that an issue as you're trying to discern your vocation?
Well, for starters, I really didn't want to enter.
Okay.
But it kept coming out in my mind, and I thought, if I don't try this, I'm never going to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came, I had written to Mother Gerald, and she told me when to come and blah, 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 what to bring. And it was the weekend it was Labor Day weekend. And my friends and I were going to go fishing. We got our fishing licenses. And I told my mother, I said, I'm going to send Sister Gerald a letter telling her that I can't make it this weekend. My mother said, oh, no, she said, if you don't go now, you'll never go. So I had to go. So.
You had to go.
Yeah.
Now, what did your brothers and sisters think of that?
I really couldn't tell you. I never asked them.
No comment.
And they never told me.
There was another space someplace, so they got one out of the house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I never had my own bedroom in my
no.
whole lifetime until I entered.
Right.
Because this was the girls' room, this was the boys' room, this was the little kids' room, and my parents' room, and
Mm-hmm.
it's only so many bedrooms in a house.
Mm-hmm. But what was it about the Adrian Dominicans that perhaps was the deciding factor for you?
Well, I think they were cheerful.
Mm-hmm. That's a response we get almost all the time when our sisters made a decision.
Do they say cheerful?
Yeah, happy. They seemed happy.
Well, I think they were pretty human.
Mm-hmm.
When you told them stuff, they didn't get shocked,
Mm-hmm.
And they were...
So you told them some shocking things?
Probably. I don't remember, but I probably did. Scared the bejeebers off of them.
Maybe not.
Maybe not, yeah,
Maybe
it's
not.
true.
So you entered when?
On Labor Day weekend, 1954.
Okay.
So I've been here 64 years.
Wonderful. Very involved in preaching in various ministries. Now, we're not going to go through every place that you've been, but there had to be a couple that were most significant to you.
Well, I love my work in St. Mary's Royal Oak.
And tell us about that.
Well, I was in charge of I forget the name of it, the office. But anyway, I could use all of my skills that I ever dreamed of having and that I had. I helped. Basically, I worked with the homeless and the poor.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of other things too, but I have to tell you a funny story. One time, in the summertime, we used to have our meetings in this fellowship center because the air conditioner worked better over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at this, big table, and one time we were having a meeting, and Mary Ann Holland, the religious ed secretary, said, "Sister Therese, I think that's one of your women out there." And I couldn't see that because my back was to the door. So I got up and went out there, and I said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "What did you want?" And she said, "I'd like to use the restroom." I said, "Well, you know where it is, right?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Well, go ahead." So she used the restroom, and I was waiting for her to leave so I could lock the doors. And she came out, and she just kind of stood around. I said, "Was there something else you wanted?" She said, "Yes, I need some condoms." And I said, "Well, we don't have any, and I'm not expecting anybody to donate them." She said, "Oh," and she left. I got back to the meeting, and Father Bill Sinatra said, "Well, who is that?" I said, "A woman, a homeless woman." He said, "What does she want?" I thought, I'm hoping she doesn't continue to ask these questions. And I said, "She wanted to use the restroom." He said, "Is that all?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, what else did she want?" I said, "She wanted some condoms. Do you have any?" He was ready to kill me.
Therese Allgeyer. That's Therese Allgeyer's response.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you did a tremendous ministry at St. Mary's.
But, I helped the homeless. I delivered clothes, behind a Burger King at 8 o'clock at night or 11 at night or whatever they wanted. There was this one guy, he wanted some size small thermal underwear. And I said, "Well, you usually wear small." "Well, sister, you don't understand. In thermal underwear, you want it as tight as you can get it so no cold air gets in between." I go, "Oh, okay." So I learned something from him. But I delivered food to every place, wherever they were. And I helped them out in many, many ways. In fact, after I left, I got phone calls. "Sister Therese, why did you leave St. Mary's? You didn't have to." And I said, "Well, I thought it was time." Well, I met this guy in a grocery store. He said, "Sister Therese, how are you?" I said, "I'm fine. How are you?" Well, he said, "That woman that followed you, she doesn't get it. And she's not going to get it either." Because he couldn't get what he wanted, I gave him all the stuff they asked for.
So you were very much missed. But before you went to St. Mary's, I noticed on your paper there where you've been that you also were in Italy.
Oh, yeah.
Was that for a year you taught?
Yeah, I love.
And how did you get there?
Well, a friend of mine saw this ad, and she showed it to me, and I applied for the job.
Now, what was the job?
It was teaching in the middle school.
An international school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought, do you know Stella Perea?
No, name's
Well, she was in our community, so was her sister, but she was in Adrian, and I was supposed to pick her up, and she was going to stay some time with me. And I was asking, about these different people, and she told me this one's from here and that one's from there, and this guy's from Italy. I said, "Oh, no kidding." I said, "What's his name?" And she told me, and I said, "Where?" And she told me. I said, while you're getting your clothes packed, I'm going to go see if I can talk to him. And so I did, and he was a brother, the brothers that ran the school in Rome.
Okay.
He was the superior. And I would ask him all kind of questions. I said, "I'm not interested in going this year, but next year I'd love to go." And I said, "Should I bring my bike?" And should I bring my tennis racket? Just asking him all these different things. And he was so, so nice. But there were about 200 applications, and I got the job.
You did.
Yeah.
And what did you teach?
I taught religion in 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I taught study skills in 5 and 6. And
So since it was an international school, they had English students there.
Yeah, but most of them were Italian or
That's
German or They're
Well,
from
how-
all different countries.
Was language a barrier?
No, because they couldn't speak Italian.
So they spoke English?
They had to speak English. It was
Yeah.
an American school.
Right, that's what I figured. Okay.
And,
What did you learn about yourself through that experience?
Well, I learned that it'd be good if I learned some languages.
And did you?
I learned a little Italian, but not enough. But, there were several American teachers.
Okay.
And the brothers, they would rent an apartment and then sublease it to us. And I lived with two women. One taught English and the other one taught math. And every Friday, all the Americans went out to dinner, and, we had some good times.
Mm-hmm.
They were really good people. There was a PE guy. He was not from America, though. He was from some other country. But the artist was from America, and there was a math guy in high school, and he was from America. But all of us went out together every Friday night.
Good. Sounds like you had fun.
We drank a lot of wine. They said, if there isn't one empty bottle for every person here, it wasn't a good time.
Is that true? Interesting. So, in all your years of your ministerial life, which you're still in ministry, of course, what was a significant moment for you as you look back on your life? And I'm sure since you've, moved here into Adrian, we tend to look at our life choices and where we were and the blessings we had. How was
Well,
that for you?
Well, some of the places where I worked, for example, St. Killian's. St. Killian's was a very large school. There were 3 buildings, and I was in charge of the primary building. And there were 9 or 12 classrooms in the kindergarten through grade 3. And I was supposed to help these teachers learn how to write lesson plans. And I felt really good about that, and so did they, because they learned a lot. And so that was one place where
You felt very affirmed,
I did.
as you did at St. Mary's, and as you did over in Rome.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did those experiences transform you? Do you feel transformed since the day you entered?
I don't know if that's the right word.
Deepened your relationships with others and with God?
Well, yeah, that's true, but I never thought of this before.
Well, maybe when we prepare for your next time we interview you, we could start on that side. Do you have a favorite scripture quote?
I do. I like the one from Micah.
Mm.
The last line is walk humbly with your God, to love tenderly. And I've always liked that. It's simple, but it's direct. And it's really good directions for any person.
How has that scripture saying been a support to you as you've made this transition into Adrian? Because you've been here, what, a year or so?
A year, a little more than a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it makes me stop and think. It's about all I can say. Because it's tough moving to Adrian.
It's a big transition. I say if you move from one building to another, from town or from California, it's very difficult transition. It's a change.
It's a big change, major. And
What's helping you get up every day? What's your passion or what?
my alarm clock.
What's within you, perhaps, that gets you out of bed? It can't just be the alarm clock. You have to get up to turn it off.
Well, I think the fact that I have things to do here.
Good.
And places to be, and to be here for people, and to support people in whatever they're doing, and that kind of thing.
What have you learned about yourself since you moved here that maybe you didn't know or wasn't so pronounced?
Well, I have to tell you something really funny. This happened on Sunday, 2 days ago. I was in line to go to communion, and there was a very tall man in front of me. And And when it was my turn to receive communion, the priest said, "Oh, I didn't see you. You're really short."
That's right. There's a different celebrant over there. Yeah.
Oh, I laughed so hard. I mean, it was hilarious, and so did he.
Uh-huh.
And then he said, "Petite," after he said all that. It's funny.
What else would you like us to know about you? Perhaps that you had the questions that you prepared for, or maybe there's something you want to tell us that would surprise us about you that we don't know. Your dearest, closest friends.
Well, teaching in Rome was an experience. First of all, electricity is very expensive in Rome. And when the landlord knows you're going to move, she turns the elevator off. So what you have to do is move a few pieces before you tell her you're going to move, There are tricks that you have to know about. And
that sounds like life.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's life there.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, she was just you knew someone's going to move when you couldn't use your hairdryer,
Mm-hmm.
because we had no electricity.
Therese, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, I would like to be remembered for my kindness, for caring for people, for going out of my way for people. Basically along this line of loving people, caring for people, and doing for them what I would like them to do for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I noticed that you had one of your sisters or two of them, that were also Adrian Dominicans.
Uh-huh.
Who was your sister that was here and then left?
Oh, her name is Eileen.
Eileen, okay.
And her religious name was William Catherine. And she left after 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it took her quite a while to make up her mind, but anyway. And then my sister Noreen was on her way home from the gathering. She had an automobile accident, and 2 weeks later she died. I'm still trying to get over that, but I'm over quite a bit of it.
Right, but I don't know if you get over it. You just have to work through it, I think, to get to the point to be able to accept it.
Yeah.
That was a shock for all of us,
Yeah.
especially after those wonderful days of the gathering.
Yeah. Just not long before that, she bought an Irish green jacket. She wore this jacket every day she was here. And she sat with Father Jim, that art piece in the chapel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She and he sat below that every talk.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple other things that I wanted to say, not about this, but in our family, 3 in our family were left-handed. My brother Bern, my brother Ray, and my sister Eileen, the nun. And Eileen was the only one in our family that had red hair. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I didn't get it. And 3 in our family had brown eyes. I was saying this to my brother John. I was saying, when he was here when my sister was sick, I said, Noreen's one of the 3 people in our family with brown eyes. Oh, he said, who were the other 2? I said, Mother and Ray. Oh, didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite funny for him. I only have one brother living
Left,
now.
uh-huh.
Yeah. But he's a lot of fun. My brother Bob, my oldest brother, when my parents went away, John and I were home alone. That's when we were working and stuff. And we had a party every night. And my brother Bob would drive on 6 Mile Road. He would look down Fenmore. If there were cars there, he'd come because he knew we were having a party. If there weren't any cars, he wouldn't stop. It was a lot of fun.
So anything else you'd like to share with us?
I can't think of anything.
A quick one. If you were able to go on a vacation tomorrow morning to any place in the world, where would you want to go?
Rome.
Really?
Yes, I
Okay.
love Rome.
Okay.
I just love Rome.
And your transition now, you've had some challenges since you've been here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Big time.
Yeah, you seem to have weathered them. You're back home at Regina. Okay. Anything you want to say to the rest of those listening? Some words of wisdom, because you're going to be on the congregation website and also on YouTube, so your family can see this.
Oh, they can?
Yep. I'll tell you how later.
Okay.
Words of wisdom.
I just would like to say, whatever you do, do the best job you can do. No matter what it is. Put your whole heart and soul into it. Or don't start it at all.
Good advice. Good advice. And you have lived by that.
I do.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Therese Allgeyer, Sister Geraldus, the favorite one of Mother Gerald, for sharing your life thus far with us.
You're very welcome.
And you've been a part of my life for a while, so which has been a blessing. So in the name of the congregation, I thank you, and just know that we all are with you as we all continue to grieve the loss of Sean. Very, very, for those of us that knew her. That's right. So thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.